So ever since I was relatively little, not ever since, but when I was relatively little, I started basically a vocab sheet. I had this little tiny, this small notebook that I'd put in words and their definitions. And it's kind of interesting just thinking back at some of the things that I still do and find value in. And I feel like a lot of this value has come from more recent learning. I do things now because I've recognized meaning in certain things, and then it emphasizes certain actions. But at the same time, like some of these things that I find value in, I actually somehow started really young, and a lot of it I think it's really interesting too, because I just don't see how it was encouraged by my environment, or it's surprising to me how I can't find a direct link to my environment encouraging particular actions. A lot of them seemed to come from more introverted, like something inside of me, unconscious, encouraging certain behavior. It was just interesting. I was trying to get organized the other day, and I found this box that my mom had given me, and in there was this book with vocab words in it that I'd written down. And I don't know exactly how old I was. I was not in high school yet, so I think I was 11 or 12 or something like that. Maybe when I started, that was just a guess, but probably younger actually. But anyway, it's just interesting seeing that, and because I have a while ago. I don't know when this started either. I should look. It'd be cool to see the if there's any timestamps in my Google Drive when I started this list. But I started a vocab list, and I've just slowly been adding to it, and I've tried to be somewhat selective in what I add to it, because I want to put things in there that I actually want to know. And I notice that there's times when I add, maybe 3 words to it, and then I'll go a long time without adding any. And it doesn't really feel like I put that many words in this document. I can kind of show it to you. But like, it just looks like that. So it's just, I don't know, 10 words with 1 or 2 lines of definition usually per page on this thing. And a lot of times it just comes from reading a book. They talk about an idea, they say a word, and I just feel like, oh, this is a word that I won't necessarily remember, but it has a concept that I don't want to forget, or an idea. It has meaning associated with it. And I've noticed sometimes, like, one of the reasons I remember having when I started this list was, it was really important to me. I wanted to be able to have conversations with the most intelligent, articulate people, and I didn't want my lack of vocabulary to be a reason for a less quality conversation. I wanted to be able to hold my own, and my ideas to be taken for what they're worth, and not have to ask unnecessarily what someone meant by a certain word. And I know that was a leading reason in my mind for doing this. Is I was recognizing, I remember Milton Friedman was one of the, way back in the day, was one of the people that I thought, I would really like, he did a good job to me of making some ideas seem intriguing and relatively simple and straightforward at the same time, but there were still concepts and things he was saying that were new to me. And I felt that I didn't want to forget those things, and I wanted to make sure I remembered them. And when it came to, the economy and some of these basic concepts, I wanted to make sure that I understood and remembered them. And I think, logic was something that was also and is very valuable to me. And so some of the concepts and ideas and words that surround good logic were really important that I understood. And I think a lot of this too was in pursuit of truth. I felt like I needed these tools better than they were, in order to do a better job of finding truth and for myself, and I needed to be able to understand the concepts of others well, and then I needed to relay concepts well, and I didn't want the lack of understanding of words to be a hindrance in either one of those things. And but I've also found, like, so I have this list, and there's one thing that's a little bit surprising to me is how long it is. It's not, I don't know if it's, to me it's surprising just because I don't feel like I put words in it that often, but it's 56 pages long. And that's kind of interesting, and it's I don't, like, often enough scroll through all those pages, and do I even remember all those words? I guarantee you I don't. All the words will sound familiar to me, but I might not necessarily know the definition. And part of my daily routine, my ideal daily routine, and what I'm trying to incorporate as a daily routine, something that I find a daily routine very valuable. Those things that you prioritize and are staples in your life, that is on a general day they will be done. I think there's something to be said for a little bit of consistent process over time. It's kind of surprising what you can accomplish, and so knowing what are those things that I want to do every day, that are recognizing that how powerful that idea can be, doing something consistently on a daily basis is very powerful. What are those things that I want to do consistently to have that end result that is so potentially good? And this vocab list has been one of those things that I want to review. Ideally, it would be every day. It's not, but and for me, review means, like, just make sure you open it up and look at it. I don't, for now. I'm always trying to optimize this routine and how to best do it. How can I do it in a way that I actually do it? I find sometimes if I set too high of a daily demand, it won't get done at all. If I set if I said, I have to work out for 2 hours a day or something like that, I wouldn't, psychologically or whatever, I wouldn't even work out, because I don't have 2 hours today or something. So some kind of counter is very likely the more extreme the daily demand is that I've set for myself. And so I actually try to set it relatively low. So just open up the sheet, read something. But there's been a lot of benefits from this sheet, and I'm kind of just realizing some of them. One is, this has been going on for years, this list is, and it's like, wow, I have exposure and an understanding of 56 pages of words that I found meaning in. And like I said, I try to be relatively selective with what I put in. I don't just put words in it. And that's kind of something that's interesting to see, that's grown that much over time. And another thing is, I just kind of really just realized too that my own curiosity in understanding and finding meaning is encouraged by reviewing these words, because it reminds me of things, and it gets my mind thinking. These words are a lot of times explaining concepts, and it's forcing my mind to remember these concepts that I found meaningful. And a lot of times that stirs up curiosity, more curiosity. It's like, oh, I never quite looked into that part of it. Maybe I should make sure I understand that, because for me, one of the thoughts I have is that sounds relatively basic. How can I not understand that thing? And so I will try to, it'll lead to that curiosity. And I find I very highly value truth, and I don't want to just understand things. I want to understand things that are meaningful, that there's a reason to understand them. There's some kind of benefit that comes from that understanding. And I also recognize that learning for learning's sake is very, very hard to do. And I almost ignore it. I don't care to learn for learning's sake. I follow meaning and curiosity. And I find that if I'm reading a book, I try to be as selfish as I can, as example. So I'm just looking, what is in this book? I don't have to read this book. If there's nothing in it for me, then don't read the book. There's other books and other things I can be doing that are valuable. So I skim read until I find something that I think is valuable and that catches my curiosity. And I I keep saying the word curiosity because it's something I've noticed helps. Like if I'm curious, like that, I will probably remember it. If I'm not, if it's just something like, oh, it'll sound cool if I know this, or for whatever, learning for learning's sake, I don't tend to remember, and I think that's what happens to most people in school. They don't see the meaning in it, they're not curious in it, and they just forget it. And I'm not about that. I want to like unabashedly just follow my curiosity, and I find that it's kind of a self-perpetuating situation where my curiosity has found these words that I thought were meaningful, and then reviewing those words encourages more curiosity, and it encourages more learning, and it just keeps that cycle going. And so that little bit of writing these words down just doesn't take hard. It doesn't take time. It's not hard. What I think helps me remember just the fact of the enactment of writing the words down helps me remember them in the first place, and then the ability to review them helps me remember them, and whatever value there was there, I'm bettered because of that, and then it perpetuates the process a little bit, and it's not just remembering these things that I learned before, but it aids in more learning. And then another thing is it does kind of like, because these words are like, I don't organize them alphabetically or by any sort of meaning, they're just listed out there, and so I end up with concepts that are not necessarily related next to each other, which is also really interesting because it helps, I think, in thought innovation. And I have a Myers-Briggs, I'm an INTJ, the N is for intuition, and it has to do with linking things. Sometimes people describe it as including the ability to link things that are not normally associated together. It's kind of a more creative side, and having these words next to each other that aren't necessarily said at the same time. Like when you're talking about this concept, you don't often also include this other concept, but linking those things also puts unusual combinations together, which I think can be valuable. So far I've been very happy with this, and I think it's given me more value than I've like consciously given it credit for. And I sometimes hit these dead spots. Like I always want to be learning. I always want to be understanding more. I always want to know what is valuable and enact and understand how to get that value. And this has led to that. And I have these dead spots where it's like I'm not learning anything right now. Like I ask myself, where is your curiosity pushing you? And I don't have anything, and which is kind of a bummer. I don't like being in that spot. But even just reviewing these words, all of a sudden I can't help it. It's kind of interesting to think about, where does curiosity come from? But it sparks that back up, and so a lot of times, and I don't try to make curiosity either. Like it's like trying to be happy or something. Like you can't just make yourself happy because you want to be. Curiosity, I think, comes from the realization that there might actually be something meaningful or impactful. Like you're going to get some kind of pleasure from this thing, but reading this, I think reading these words can really start that process going. And these talks, like I said, a lot of times are just ad lib off my head and just things I'm thinking about. And this is something I was thinking about, just these words, and I really didn't know how many pages it was, and it kind of was surprising to me to see how many there were. And then I kind of also had the realization when I was reading it, because today I was in that spot of like, there's nothing, I don't really know, like I'm not really interested in anything at this particular moment. I started reading this and I instantly like read like 2 words on this this list and was instantly wanting to look up and understand another concept better. And I was like, wow, this is more than just remembering what you thought you already knew. This is encouraging more knowledge. And then some of the other things I talked about too, I think, are coming from this list. And anyway, this is the random thoughts that are on my head. Another random thing, just so you know, eponymous laws. There's a Wikipedia page of, it's Eponymous laws, which are just laws that are named after people, and they tend to be worth knowing. And I've slowly been going through the Wikipedia page of eponymous laws, and at least that's how I say it. I'm not 100% sure that's how it's pronounced. I think that's right. And I found a lot of value in those laws. Not every law do I care to remember, but there's a lot of laws that are concepts that are pretty fascinating and interesting. If anyone like just wants to have better general knowledge, start going through that page. Richard Hart actually is who I got that suggestion from, and it is something that I want to just slowly continue to go through. And those concepts and ideas and those laws on that page, I think I would be better, and it's another thing that just sparks curiosity and kind of fascination and understanding, just from not all of those words do I care to understand. If it has a meaning there that I'm never going to use again, then I just skip over. I like all this stuff. I try to be, am I curious about it? There's usually a reason for the curiosity. Curiosity can be a good metric, and a lot of it is selfishness. I want to be selfish, so in a good way, but I want to use these in a like I want to remember the words that there's actually meaning in. And so if they don't have it, skip over that word. But I've found definitely pleasure and meaning in going through those eponymous laws. Anyway, more random, real thoughts from this random guy on YouTube. So if you made it this far, thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you later.